continues. I know it was a lot of work and it was a lot of celebration last week. And sometimes we're ready to thank God it's over. But it's not. Easter still happens. In the plains, Mother Nature isn't so quick to awaken to that good news. However, in snow last Easter Sunday, these are my pictures I snapped outside the church. Snow again Friday, record-breaking temperatures. We were at South Point last weekend, Benares having a coffee, and the pansies were beautiful, and yesterday they were dead. So I asked Chris, I said, do you think they can come back? Do pansies, I mean, they're a hardy flower. They can take the cold, but do they come back after it freezes? And she said, well, I don't know. So I Googled it. Google wasn't so hopeful, so I don't know. Reverend Morton, I'm sorry that I forgot to pack a snow scraper or windshield scraper in your condiment basket from Bethany Christian Church, because you might need it a few more days. It could be useful. Spring, the season of resurrection, is going to come. It is going to come. This week we're promised. But it's hiding for a little while longer, like Jesus' disciples did on that evening of the first day of the week. It's recorded in our passage from John chapter 20, verses 19 through 31. At the beginning of that passage, John says, the doors of the house where the disciples met were locked because they were filled with fear. They were behind closed doors, and with good reason. The brutal crucifixion of Jesus had them in a state of panic, in a state of fear. One does not get over the tragic death of a loved one or a friend so quickly. Absorbing loss, as you know, takes time. Ask the children and the teachers at Marjory, Stoneman, Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, who witnessed 17 of their friends and teachers died on Valentine's Day, February 14, another 17 wounded. I think plenty of teenagers were probably, and adults, were probably hiding behind locked doors at that event, at that high school on that day, because they were fearful of their lives. They were hiding in fear. Valentine's Day. What a horrible day for that tragedy to occur. It was also Ash Wednesday, the day that we gathered here and marked ourselves with the sign of the ashes, a sign of repentance that life has a way of turning itself around. And then we hear of that tragic news. Now, on the evening of that first day of the week, John says, the disciples discover that Jesus comes into their midst. Easter continues. The post-Easter Jesus, whom we call the Christ, does not enter through doors, as people with physical bodies must do. The doors are locked, yet Jesus is in the presence of his disciples. How does that happen? It sounds a little bit like John's version of The Hollywood Medium with Tyler Henry. I don't know if you watch those shows. The Long Island Medium, or The Haunting of on the Sci-Fi Channel, or Paranormal Witness. I love those shows, okay? I love to read all about that. Shows and stories about the paranormal in today's modern world. But this is Easter. This is Easter. It's not magic. It's not the paranormal. There is a situation and a context in this story that makes it different. This is gospel. Jesus' presence is known to his disciples by the fact that he brings them peace in the midst of a very fearful time. Peace is a fulfillment of what he said to his disciples earlier. In John chapter 14, verse 27, we read, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." It's one of the greatest passages, I think, in the whole Bible. Jesus leaves his disciples peace. And this giving of peace is contrasted with the way that the world gives or achieves peace. Church, in the time of Jesus, in the first century, people were living in the age of the Pax Romana, or the peace of Rome. And that peace was peace through military victory. And Caesar Augustus was very, very adept at telling the world this is how we achieve peace. And he writes his victories on massive monuments placed in the major European cities. The Arapacis today stands in Rome, and you can read Caesar Augustus and all about his victories throughout the Roman world. This was the time of Jesus. Thousands saw a death like Jesus. Thousands who had protested against the injustice of the Caesars, their rule and their occupation of their land. And if you're going to protest, then you better be prepared to carry your cross. Easter in the Gospels is set in the context of war. The Jewish revolt against Rome and its emperors from 66 to 70 AD. It's not a peaceful time. Masada, the last Jewish stronghold that you see on the screens, fell in 73 AD. A group of about 1,000 people who fought for 3 years against the armies of Vespasian and was led by Vespasian's son Titus. 3 years struggling on this mountaintop to fight the powers. But the powers won. Rome squelched Masada as Rome burned the temple, as Rome destroyed Jerusalem, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem had to leave their homes and travel to the cities around and to the north and the east. It's not a peaceful time. That's not our experience of Easter. No, our experience is coming here generally on a nice spring day with flowers outside and trees blooming, snow, but we still had a great, great breakfast, don't you think? Thank you, membership committee. We had a great service and a beautiful cross filled with flowers and lilies, and then we went home to our families and we ate more. And to some of you, you had 2 more dinners that week, rice and more, and you had to be stuffed by the end of Easter day. That's our experience of Easter, and children hunting Easter egg in the yard. But that's not Easter in the Gospels. I think it explains why the disciples are hiding in fear, why they are behind locked doors, why the first words that Jesus speaks are words of peace. Next, John introduces us to the disciple Thomas. We don't know where Thomas was the first half of this passage, but he missed the initial encounter of Jesus coming to be with his disciples. And so Thomas hears from the disciples that Jesus had come, but Thomas doesn't believe until he can actually see Jesus for himself. Thomas is good for us, I think, because from this disciple we learn that it's okay to question, it's okay to doubt, it's it's okay to take some time and just wonder about the questions of life. Belief is more than an intellectual exercise. Belief is bringing our whole selves, giving our whole selves into something that we believe is the way that I guess it should be. A week later, Thomas is with the disciples when Jesus comes to them again. And once again, Jesus offers peace. And Thomas's fear and his disbelief are gone. And his response has become a confession of the church, my Lord and my God. The good news of this passage is this, and I don't know that I still can understand it fully. We don't have to remain behind closed doors. We don't have to lock ourselves away in fear. We don't have to fear for our life. We don't have to fear for our death, which is the hardest thing for any of us to understand. We don't have to fear about a confrontation with the powers that attempt to keep us down. We don't have to live our lives behind closed doors or in tombs of our own making. And so I think this lesson, I think maybe John is trying to say to us, what role does fear play in our lives? How does fear stop us from being wholly human? How does fear stop us from this wonderful gift of transformation that we can bring to the world, either of ourselves or of our churches or of our communities? I think I've tried to live in fear a good part of my life. And John is telling me, take a look at that. Easter is thoroughly good news for anyone who experiences the sadness of life. Easter is great news for anyone who thinks life is unfair or unjust. Easter is great news for those who are living lives in pain of body or spirit. Easter is great news for those who experience the deep tragedies of life, like the Parkland school shootings or any other tragedy. Easter is good news because death's control is not final, as we think that it might be. Jesus is on the move. Death has not stopped him. And if we decide to follow him, then that means we are on the move too. Church, we are a people of resurrection. We are an Easter people. And now, because of this event called Easter, I can't give up on anyone. I'm not permitted to do that. I can't say things like, people never change. I can't say things like, the church will never do that. I can't give up hope for any person or any church. I have to stop being so cynical. I can't be cynical about the poor of this world, or the broken in our community, or the hopelessly lost that wander our streets, or those who I think will never, never reverse their position in life. I can't be cynical about that anymore. Easter doesn't give me permission to. In the most desperate of situations, I don't have an excuse to give up on you or anyone. or to waste my time wallowing in grief or despair about anything. Students of Marjory, Stoneman, Douglas High School are not hiding behind closed doors, and I'm so proud of them. They are honoring their fallen with the social revolution, and their influence is growing. 100,000 students, 16 and 17-year-olds from California, have signed up to vote. In the next election, they are able to vote. The influence of the students in Parkland, Florida, have influenced the community of Deerfield, Illinois, to ban the ownership of assault rifles or weapons. And if you don't give those weapons over by June 13th, you are fined $1,000 a day. Change. Not letting fear control us or having the upper hand. We so admire examples of that. Some of us believe that Easter is all about the future. That one day when I die, I will be raised like Jesus. One day I will get this gift called resurrection. But I think Easter is not about the future at all. I think Easter is about now. It is about our lives here and now. It's about being transformed in a way to follow Jesus, to think like Jesus, to talk like Jesus, to act like Jesus, and to bring healing and change like Jesus. And it's about following that path that we looked at throughout the season of Lent. Jesus blesses his disciples, he empowers them with Spirit, he bestows his peace on them, and then he sends them out into the world and says, go. Go and change the world. Go and transform the world in the way that I have shown you. And so that is the beginning of the assignment for his disciples. That's the beginning of his assignment for us. Church, we have lots and lots of work to do. We offer an invitation for you each week to come and be a part of a community that seeks to be about mission and change in our community.